I'm Nolan Dalla. Welcome to NFL Week number 5. This is the third straight week that I've done the video picks, recommendations on against the point spread, the totals for all of the NFL games coming up for Sunday and Monday. It's been a pretty good season so far. With the video picks, all the things that you see across the banner here, those are the picks that I make, the recommendations I have in each game. Those picks so far have gone 18 winners and 10 losers, hitting about 65% on the year. I'll take those percentages. Certainly fantastic numbers so far. 18 winners, 10 losers so far for a very good percentage. I'm not sure we're going to be able to maintain that winning streak, but certainly here on the video, it's been very successful so far. Let's open some wine, talk about NFL Week number 5. Number of games, 2 teams have byes. And let's start right off the top with Chicago playing at Carolina. Obviously, the big situation with the Bears is all the injuries still on the defense. Chicago looked absolutely dreadful last week, playing, especially in that second half, against division rival Green Bay, getting absolutely shut out in the second half at home. And it's strange because the Bears, oddly enough, have covered and won 2 times on the road. They're 2-0 on the road, but are 1-2 at home. So this is quite an interesting spot. They're going on the road here this week. But Carolina is probably just as desperate at 2-2. These are 2 teams that, in my view, they're very Jekyll and Hyde-ish. We really don't know which team's going to show up from week to week. I think for that reason, this line is listed at Chicago getting 3. I should say Carolina -3 is the line as the home team. Essentially, the lines makers are telling us that these are 2 equal teams. 3 points is given for the home field advantage. I think that's enough to entice me to take the dog team, which is the Bears here, even with the injuries. I certainly like the quarterback situation a bit better for the Bears and their wideouts and their offense. I think that's probably going to be the edge here. Defensively, there's not much to like about the Bears, but Carolina's defense seems to be overrated. They've been waxed the last 2 weeks straight, getting beat badly at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is not a very good team, we're finding out, and then getting absolutely humiliated at Baltimore a week ago. I think these are 2 very close teams, should be a close game, and for that reason I will take the 3 points. I'll also lean toward the under. The total is right now 46.5. I think this plays into an under. I don't see a high-octane kind of a game with either offense scoring particularly a lot of points. I think it's going to be low. I think it's going to be a game of a lot of drives, a lot of field position. I think a field goal gets it to the end. For that reason, I'll take the Bears +3. The total under 46.5. Cheers. Let's start out with a winner. Delicioso. It's fantastic wine. This is from the Rhone Valley. Good French Rhone Valley wine, which I really enjoy. All the wines from the Rhone Valley are my favorites. So, on to the next game. Cleveland playing at Tennessee. The Browns are coming off a bye last week. They have been competitive in all 3 of the games they've played so far. They're 1-2. The only team they beat was the Saints, but they've been competitive all 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the Titans have looked absolutely dismal the last 3 weeks. After opening up with a win against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, Tennessee has looked terrible against Dallas, Cincinnati, and Indianapolis. In fact, losing badly by double digits to all 3 of those teams. This is a very weird game in the sense of, based on what I just told you, you would take the Cleveland Browns. That seems to be the logical thing to do here. The Browns are actually getting points, getting 2. It seems again to be the play. However, I'm going to be contrarian here. I think that even with all of the problems that the Titans have, this is one of those games in the NFL that you look at the line and you look at the way the teams have played and you say it just doesn't make any sense. A very small lean, but it's enough to make me play the game for a small amount, is to play the home dog here, the sly dog, the Tennessee Titans. Who would have ever thought the Cleveland Browns would go on the road and be a favorite? I also like this game to go over the total. I think it's 44. And often when you get 2 teams kind of with what I call a nothing-to-lose mentality, they open up the playbook and you see, coaches are now realizing that I better start winning, better start doing something. So fireworks tend to happen on offense a lot of times in these situations. I think this is one of those games that actually can play fairly high scoring, especially given that, you don't look at these teams and, see a lot of offensive talent. but I will go contrarian here and go over the 44 as well. So my pick here is Tennessee Titans plus the 3 and over the total of 44. Next game of the St. Louis Rams playing at Philadelphia. Another interesting game. The key stat here for me on this game is the Philadelphia Eagles and their offensive line. Anybody who watched the Eagles last week playing in San Francisco saw that that offensive line is absolutely decimated. They could not protect quarterback Nick Foles. Couldn't get any kind of running game established at all. I think they ran for 25 yards the whole game. Absolutely horrendous. And that offensive line hasn't been fixed. I think the center is out. And this is not a team I'm going to lay a touchdown with, certainly. Under no circumstances, a team that has their center and a lot of offensive line injuries would I ever lay a touchdown with here. In fact, that's going to entice me to play the St. Louis Rams, getting the +7. I will take the Rams, coming off the bye. This is a team that on the road, their only road win, they won the game. They've been competitive in the last couple of weeks. Should be a close game. I'm hoping for a close game, obviously. The total is something I'm not going to touch. It's 47.5. Eagles, very, very unpredictable team. You could make the case for the Eagles that they played 4 very, I don't want to say bad games, but 4 games where they really just were on very thin ice, particularly the first half and the first 3 quarters, because they were down double digits in the first 3 games. They came back and won against not very stiff competition, by the way. And then, of course, in San Francisco, 21 points. They had a 21-9 lead at one point, but all the teams were scored, I think, through defensive touchdowns and special teams. The offense produced almost nothing. So this is a spot where I will take the dog, the St. Louis Rams plus the 7. No opinion on the total. The Atlanta Falcons are traveling to the New York Giants. Interesting spot for the Falcons here because Atlanta was lost by 10 to the Vikings last week. The Giants, coming off the bye, have had essentially I should say coming off a 10-day rest. They played last Thursday, so they've had 10 days to prepare for this home game. I think the Giants probably are the play here, laying 4. I don't see the Falcons coming off a double-digit loss on the road, now having to go on the road for another game against a very rested team, a team that's actually played 2 very good games in a row against the Redskins and also their last home game beating Houston, which is turning out to be a pretty decent team, the Houston Texans. So, everyone wrote off the New York Giants after week 1 and 2 when they didn't look good in those games. But the Giants, I've always said, this is one of the best coached teams in the NFL with Tom Coughlin. Always gets a lot out of his players, which is not the best roster in terms of talent. But I will always back a Tom Coughlin coach team. I'm willing to lay the 4. I won't lay over 4, by the way. This line moves to 4.5. By any reason, I'm off the game. But I think the Giants, I'll still expect them to win and cover this number of 4. No total on 50, a fairly high total because it's a Falcon game. The Falcons, seem to score a lot of points or give up a lot of points. That's why this total is pretty high. Should be an interesting game, especially with Matt Ryan and Eli Manning throwing quite a bit. Tampa Bay is playing at New Orleans, and I can't believe I'm going to back the New Orleans Saints here, -10. I mean, this is a 1-3 team. Hasn't looked good in any of the 4 games. Has not looked good in any of the 4 games. Even the game they won against Minnesota, they struggled in, winning 20-9. And of course, everyone saw last Sunday night's massacre with New Orleans. I was contrarian and taking the Saints in that game, one of my losers, and I was absolutely stunned. I've never seen a Sean Payton coach team look that ill-prepared, both offensively and defensively. Rich Ryan, we see as the defensive coordinator, we thought he was making great strides turning around that defense. Saints defense has been just absolutely throttled for at least 3 out of the 4 games here, and now playing a Tampa Bay team coming off a big win in Pittsburgh last week. That game was dominated by the Steelers for the first 3 quarters, but we saw. The Tampa Bay, here they would talk about a gutsy team and a team that just came back and won the game outright. So the problem is for the Tampa is they've got to somehow get up. Again, it's very tough for bad teams to go on the road consecutive weeks, particularly coming after the first win, and they seem to have gotten that, all right, we got the win, and now I don't see this being a very good emotional spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very small play. I'm going to go on and put it down as one of my plays, but this is not one of my best bets or whatever. I am going to play the Saints small I also would suggest teasing the Saints down to, particularly if you can find it at, say, 3.5 or maybe even 4. This line is 10, so it's teased down to, 4 points. I would go ahead and play the teaser, especially at 3.5. But I'm going to go on and put the New Orleans Saints as a teaser. By the way, quickly combining that with San Diego, and I'll talk about the Chargers a bit later. So I got 2 plays on this game. That's the New Orleans Saints, which, by the way, are like 9,000-0. The last however many years in the Superdome. Completely different team, completely different personality, a lot more confidence for the Saints when they play at home in the Dome in Louisiana. So I'm going to play the Saints and lay the 10, something I almost never do in the NFL, but the Saints are just one of those teams that plays marvelously in the Dome, tends to cover, a lot more often than they don't. And Tampa Bay, I think, coming off the big win, very, very difficult to get up emotionally for this spot. Very quick side note that I'm worried about. I've actually been to some Tampa New Orleans games in the Superdome. I actually attended them. The Buccaneers always seem to play the Saints tough there. There's something, I don't know what it is about, maybe just it's not so much of a travel. It's obviously an interdivision game, but I'm a little afraid, which is why I'm playing this game for a smaller amount. But I think that there's enough talent. There's certainly a lot of history that supports playing the New Orleans Saints, laying even 10 points, no more than that, and then teasing the Saints down to a respectable and easier number to cover, which would be 4. Houston Texans are playing at Dallas. Here's a Dallas Cowboys. Who would have thought they could possibly be 3-1 at this point? Also, the Texans 3-1. This is one of the premier matchups in the NFL on Sunday. I'm going to play the Texans. They're getting 6.5 in this game. I think that's just a little too generous. I'm not so completely sold on the Dallas Cowboys, either their defense or even their offense. Yeah, they've got the leading rusher in the NFL right now, running the ball well. Everything is breaking correctly for Dallas. But coming off an enormous victory at home against the Saints, I think the Texans here are in a good spot to at least play Dallas tough. Not sure who's going to win, but anytime you're getting 6.5 points, I think that's enough to, in a close game, to certainly be a tilt factor, saying I'll take the dog. So I'm going to take the Texans here. No opinion on the total, which is 47. Buffalo Bills are playing at Detroit. Detroit's another surprising team at 3-1, and Buffalo, meanwhile, has slid to 4-4. They started out 2-0, but lost their last 2 games, so now it seems to be really dire straits here for the Bills to really bounce back. But they're 2-2 and certainly in the hunt. But now Buffalo has switched the starting quarterback this week. They have finally pulled E.J. Manuel and are starting the backup quarterback. I don't have any notes in front of me, but I believe they're going. Gosh, I should have the name in front of me, but I don't. But anyway, the Bills are starting the backup this week, and that actually could be a positive thing. I'm not so sure that's really a negative here. I don't give any really weight to. It's not like there's a huge fall off between Emmanuel's performance so far and the backup. And I know the backup's experience. Just the name escapes me, but I don't think there's any drop off there. I do think it's rally the wagons time for the Bills here, and I think they know they've got to play better. The Detroit Lions, though, have just been really a team that, especially winning against Green Bay at home, beating the New York Giants at home, coming off a huge victory against the Jets where they wiped out the Jets on the road. I'm not completely sold on the Detroit Lions, so I'm not going to bet them, but I'm also not going to bet against them either here. So I'm going to pass on the game. Total at 43.5 is a very tempting over. One of the reasons is when you have a new quarterback coming in, especially somebody that's started a few games, as the Bills quarterback will be in that situation this week. It's very hard now for the defense of the Lions to maybe get up a game plan because there's no film, there's no game film to study with this quarterback running the offense. So I think that this could favor actually the Bills scoring a few more points maybe than we expect them to, and also a very low total of 43 for a Detroit Lion home game. Remember, the Lions would always be up around 48, 49, 50 for any of the Lion home games. First of all, because they had an explosive offense, still do to a certain extent, and also, they had a pretty awful defense for a lot of times, so you'd see very high total on Lion games, but here you've only got a 43.5. Leaning over, haven't pulled the trigger yet. I'm just going to leave it off the charts right now, but that's where I would lean, would be over in the game Again, no play on this game, however, officially. Baltimore Ravens are traveling to Indianapolis. Ravens are just an awful road team to back against the spread. I do believe everyone has underestimated the Ravens. This is a team that had the hangover after the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl in 2012. Had an off year last season. Obviously, a huge fall off in statistics and points scored on offense for the Ravens last year. But now we've seen the last couple of weeks where they played very, very well, scoring 38 last week at home against Carolina. This is a team that's actually, seems to be maybe gelling or starting to peak again, or this is certainly a contender that a lot of people wrote off as being maybe a 500 team, maybe even worse. But, Harbaugh teams, coach teams in Baltimore particularly, have always been competitive and always been winners, and I would very much lean toward the Baltimore here, except for their record on the road, is just something that inspires no confidence in me. I do think, however, when you look at the Colts, they could be perfect 4-0 if you look at their record. They're 2-2, I believe, or whatever. But they've been competitive in all of the games they've played. Lost 2 games, one late on Monday Night Football, and of course they lost the first week of the season against Denver. But this, I think, plays into an over. You've got essentially the dome kind of a stadium, the fast rubber grass, which creates a lot of offense. The flag-happy officials always seems to favor, the quarterbacks, especially experienced quarterbacks, which you have here with, 2 pretty good passing attacks. I can't believe I'm saying that about Joe Flacco, but for whatever reason, the Baltimore Ravens are moving the ball now well the last couple of weeks, as are the Indianapolis Colts. I think this plays into an over, a little high at 49. I'd play this small. Again, I haven't scaled the bets yet, but I will play over 49 for a small amount. That's my only recommendation on the game. The Steelers are going into Jacksonville, and what a fuck team the Steelers are. I mean, there's no question that this is a team that I almost just don't want to touch anymore. I just want to tear up whatever I have as far as going on the Steelers. I almost want to just tear it up because this is one of those teams that just has consistently burned me in the Mike Tomlin era. Whatever side I bet, I can't bet them. Whenever I bet against them, they somehow win 30-0, and whenever I bet on them, they do exactly what they did last week, which is giving up that horrible fourth quarter situation to Tampa, where they're at home dominating the team, shutting them down, and then they fuck it completely in the fourth quarter of that game. So this is not a team that I really ever want to back. I told myself I'm laying off this team for the rest of the season. Of course, here they end. They just reel me back in. And I'm going to take the Steelers, which I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm taking them in a teaser, by the way. I think you could consider teasing the Steelers from the 6 down to, just to pick them. I am going to play the team small, which is -6 at Jacksonville. Jacksonville just hasn't shown any capacity at all to cover a double-digit number. I mean, they just, you could give them probably 10 every week, and I'm not sure that's enough points against any opponent. Maybe the Raiders, but you have to give me at least 10 points to even consider or contemplate playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, as bad as we've seen, particularly that defense play. And I like the new quarterback at Jacksonville. I think he could be something real, something special. We've seen him play actually 2 pretty good games when he's come in, but this is not a good spot for Jacksonville. Getting the Steelers and whatever's left of their pride. The Steelers going on the road here, should take care of business. Just like last week against Tampa, they play another Florida team on the road here. I think they cover the 6. I'll go for a small number here. My recommendation: Pittsburgh Steelers -6. No total. No opinion on the total, rather, at 47. Arizona Cardinals are playing at Denver. One of the premier matchups of the week. Arizona, a perfect 3-0 with Stafford at quarterback. Playing in the backup role after Carson Palmer went down with injury and isn't going to play for a while apparently. So you've got the Cardinals at 3-0. Defense has been the game here for the Cardinals. Their defense has really been the difference. And now they're having to play, maybe arguably the best offense in the NFL with the Denver Broncos coming off their sole loss. Still, they're 3-1 on the season, I believe. And the Broncos, of course, coming off a very close loss to Seattle, where they stormed back in the fourth quarter. I should say the Broncos are 2-1. But I believe they're playing at home here after that game, after the bye week. So this is a game that I really probably don't want to touch. A lot of people would, probably be inclined to say, oh, the Arizona Cardinals are 3-0, and I do believe they are for real, but it's a really bad spot for the Cardinals here. Not sure they're going to be able to score enough points to keep up with the Manning-led offense. I would lean toward Denver laying the 7, but it's 7.5. Huge difference. It's 7.5, and that's why I'm not playing the game, because of that half point. So I'm laying off this game. Total at 48, probably about where it should be. Also a pass. Again, I don't care if the game's a premier matchup or it's two of the worst teams in football. All I care about is making the money, handicapping the game, looking for an advantage, particularly an emotional advantage or a situational advantage. I don't care if it's the best game of the week. I'm not betting the game. I don't care about. I'm not here to entertain myself. I'm here to hopefully make some money and drink some wine. So next game is Kansas City at San Francisco, and I never bet the 49ers. Almost never bet the 49ers for a number of reasons. I think this is maybe one of the best coached team, tackles well, great defense, the best wide receivers and wideouts in football by far, maybe the best running game. I have no faith in Colin Kaepernick. I have no desire to bet a Colin Kaepernick coach quarterback team, but they are playing in a perfect spot here. So I'm going to have to lay the 5 and take the 49ers against Kansas City, coming off an enormous emotional and confidence-building victory. Not just a victory, but a drubbing of New England on Monday Night Football. Now they have to go on the road in a short week. This is, if you've been around the handicapping for 30 years like I have, this was one of these quintessential gambling situations that would come up about 2 or 3 times a year, where the home dog is playing a hugely emotional game against one of these premier franchises, wins the game, and now on the short week has to go on the road and play a tough divisional rival. Not divisional. This is not a division game, but a rival. And this is a really bad spot now for the Chiefs, kind of in that situation, playing against a hungry team that's 2-2, still knows they've underperformed this year. And San Francisco, I think, is ready in this spot. I think that defense will shut down the Chiefs. The total of 44, I'm probably going to go under as well. I'm not sure that either one of these teams are going to score a lot of points. I think this is one of the better bets of the NFL on the board. We're seeing San Francisco defense, I think, is completely for real. Kansas City's defense, playing pretty well as well, holding the Broncos only to 24, and certainly we saw what they did holding the Patriots down. That's pretty impressive. So I think Kansas City's defense will have some success. And I'm also going to play a little bit of these two sides don't usually meld together very well, where you play a favorite and an under. Usually think favorite's got to score a lot of points to cover a number. But I think that this breaks into like a 24-17 kind of a game in favor of the San Francisco 49ers. I'm laying the -5 here. I'm also taking the under. The New York Jets are traveling cross country to San Diego. San Diego Chargers, the hottest team in the NFL right now, at 3-1 and looking very impressively in doing so. San Diego absolutely screwed me last week. I told you my record so far this year was 18 winners and 10 losers, including that Pittsburgh Steelers teaser I lost last week. But the real killer last week was when I have the under, I think it was under 45 or 44.5 in the San Diego Charger game. I touted this one big as one of the best bets of the week. The number is right on 43. 43 points. San Diego Chargers have the ball on like the 20 with 1 minute and 16 seconds left and a 16-point lead. And it's 4th and 2. Now, most teams do not kick the ball, kick the field goal. They're already up by 16 with a minute and 20 seconds left in the game. They've got the ball 4th and 2. That's usually run the ball up the middle, bang, bang, bang. Jacksonville would run 2 or 3 plays, the game is over. Well, what do? They decide to kick a field goal up 16 points with a minute 20 left in the game. Kicking the field goal, of course, busts my total. Bad beat story. Enough of that. Anyway, I should have been 20-8, but I'm 18-10 because of 2 screwball games in the last couple of seconds. So anyway, the Jets are playing at San Diego, and I'm going to lay the 6.5 here. I think this is, I'm starting to fall into this pattern of taking these home favorites, and I usually a contrarian, but I think as long as you have the Jets' offense in disarray and a lot of, obviously, problems with the Jets, I thought what you had to look at with evaluating the New York Jets was to watch how that team reacted coming off that very disappointing loss to the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, where they could have won the game. They didn't because Geno Smith and really the offense did not play very well, much of the game. And I thought that there'd be a lot of pride in the Jets to come back last week. One of the reasons I bet the Jets laying like 2 to the Detroit Lions. And I thought the Jets would have enough pride. The defense would play tough. I thought that Ryan would have his group motivated. And then the Lions just come in there. They went 24-17, I think, was the final. But this was not the performance I was looking for the New York Jets. I don't really see, if they didn't turn it on last week, if that was the best they had at home, I don't see now playing against a tougher opponent on the road. And I don't see the Jets, covering, which is a very bizarrely low line here at 6.5. Shouldn't this line be like 8 or 9? So as long as it's on the low end of a touchdown, I'm going to lay the 6.5. I'd even lay 7 for a smaller number. Get the 6.5 now. This game will hit 7 by game time. 3.5 is the total. Really no opinion here. But I also recommend, again, remember back to my earlier remarks on the New Orleans Saints. This is a game I'm also going to tease. I think San Diego gets the job done. I think you can tease the 6.5 down to the -1/2. In other words, just win the game and combine it with the New Orleans Saints. So I'm taking the San Diego Chargers minus the 6.5, teasing that same team down to a half, and passing on the total. 2 more games, which are the Sunday night game and then the Monday night game. The Sunday night game, Cincinnati's playing at New England. Looks like a really premier matchup here. Surprisingly, I guess, you wouldn't have put this line on this game a month ago at this, but Cincinnati Bengals favored in Massachusetts, playing this game at -1. Again, people think, oh, New England Patriots, the dog. Well, that's a spot you've got to play the Patriots, right? How often are they getting points? Well, not so fast. I know everybody's going to bet the game because it's Sunday Night Football, so everybody has to lay a bet on the game. I'm not going to bet it, and I want to tell you why you should not bet the New England Patriots. I want to tell you why right now. Because the New England has not looked good except in one game against Minnesota, that was completely decimated by injuries and the Adrian Peterson controversy in week number 2. Remember that game? In other words, New England opened up against Miami, in Miami, and lost by like 15 or something like that. 34-20 or something. Then they go into Minnesota, good spot, fired up team, beat a team that was completely distracted. They still got Matt Castle. This is before Bridgewater came off the bench. Adrian Peterson's problems, all this stuff. So, of course, Minnesota is going to be flat in that game. And then what happens is the last 2 weeks, New England almost loses to the Oakland Raiders, maybe one of the worst teams, if not the worst, one of the 2 worst teams in the NFL, the Oakland Raiders, only winning the game at home 16-9. That, to me, is almost a loss. That's almost embarrassing. That's almost like hang your head in shame and walk off the field. And don't collect a paycheck on Monday morning for that performance. Seriously? New England, 16-9 against the Raiders? And then you think, okay, well, that was kind of embarrassing. They'll go and play Kansas City. Tough, won't they? No. It was like, 41-4, whatever the final was. They got their asses destroyed in Kansas City. This is a team that's had some serious problems, the Patriots. This is not a team that you just flip the switch on and, Bill Belichick screams a little bit and the whole team gets... This is a team that's just not maybe the team that we're used to seeing in New England the last decade. I'm not saying they're going to fall off and have a 6-10 season. I'm not saying the dynasty's over. It wasn't a dynasty, but that's not happening. But this is not a team that you want to just knee-jerk and say, oh, give me the home dog Patriots. No. But I'm also not going to take Cincinnati because it's just too... Cincinnati's become too... I call the team... It's become too sexy of the pick. Oh, they're in vogue, and you really want to back Anthony Dalton and a coach that's been there for 10 years and has won like 1 playoff game. I like Marvin Lewis. I hope he does well. I mean, he deserves it. But my goodness, don't all of a sudden crown and anoint the Cincinnati Bengals as the Super Bowl favorite. I know they're 3-0 and they look really good, but this is a really tough spot now for the Bengals. If the Patriots have anything left in the tank, they're going to see it on the field on Sunday night, which is why I say watch the game, don't bet it. I will play, however, I will play because you got to have action on Sunday night, and of course you want to have my picks on Sunday Night Football. I will play the over 46. Get this total quick. I don't know when you watch this tape, but get it fast because this total probably hits 47 by game time. You have two quarterbacks that have experience, a lot of wideouts. This is a night game. Plays a lot of the factors play into that 34-27 kind of a game. I think this number hits 50 fairly easily, and I think you can bet this over with confidence. Everybody's all real high on the Cincinnati Bengals defense. Yeah, I am too. But now you've got a humiliated Patriot team that hasn't looked good in a while. This is where Bill Belichick as a coach usually excels. Usually comes back with everything he's got. Certainly Tom Brady, the perfect soldier on the field to carry out the game plan. I think that I'm not betting. I said the Patriots, but I am going to think they're going to score some points. So let's go with the over 46 on this game. Last game of the week is the Seattle Seahawks playing at Washington. The two Washingtons playing here. And the Redskins are getting 7 at home. Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl defending champions, are -7. Fairly unusual, to see the Monday night road team favored by a touchdown here. Total at 45. I've been knee-jerking these overs on Monday Night Football every week. I'm not going to do it here. There's some reasons why. I think the thing to focus on here is that everyone seems to be, especially what I call the wise guy handicappers, the people that I see in the week and that I actually have a fair amount of respect for, and you find out who are they on, what are they thinking about. And everybody I've talked to seems to really like the Redskins here. Monday night home dog. Everyone's given up on the Redskins. Kirk Cousins does not look good for a couple of weeks. This is a pull out whatever you have left. You've got one chance to salvage your season. It's a 1-3 team. The Redskins are 1-3, and it's Monday Night Football against the Super Bowl champions. You've got to play the dog and take the 7. That's what every handicapper that I usually would talk to that I respect would say. You've got to take the situation. Again, not so fast, and the reason is very simple. If you break down the way the Redskins have played these 4 games, they won one game that was against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 2 at home. They looked dismal, particularly offensively, against the Houston Texans in Week 1 on the road. Didn't look good at all. I think it was 20-9 was the final. They beat Jacksonville. Hooray, hooray. Next week, they play in Philadelphia. Actually looked good. Were leading in the game for a while, but faded like bad teams do, losing to Philadelphia by, I think it was by 7. I forgot the number, but I think they lost by 7 in that game. And then, of course, Washington getting destroyed by the New York Giants on last Thursday Night Football. So they've looked really bad, or they've lost, 3 games, convincingly lost 3 games, and now they're playing really the better team of any of the of those. And again, all the cappers are going to look at Seattle. Oh, the Seattle Seahawks don't play well on the road. This is not the team to bet on the road. Yes, I understand. I understand what the numbers say. I understand you don't want to, bet teams based on their past performance struggling on the road. However, this is a Seahawks team that almost lost last week against Denver in their last game. This is a team that lost in San Diego, their last road game. This is a Monday Night Football game. This is a team that this is a situation where the Seahawks are not going to be caught flat-footed. The team's got too much talent. There's too much class and character in a well-coached Pete Carroll team with the Seattle Seahawks. I will lay 7 points. I will lay 7 with the Seahawks. Maybe one of the first times in my entire gambling history I've ever laid like a touchdown on the road in a Monday Night Football. I'd almost never, ever, ever do this. And I am doing it here because I think the situation favors the Seahawks coming, into this spot to really shine against a very bad, very beat-up team. Look at the injury list for the Redskins. I think 11 out of the, whatever it is, 11 out of the 48 players on the roster, whatever it is, are an injured reserve or something. It's insane. And if you look at the Redskins situation, particularly on defense, they've got all kinds of problems and injuries. If this was a healthy Redskin team, I might look at them. But again, you have a team that's decimated with injuries, and maybe worse, I'm not convinced yet, that Gruden is the right fit in Washington, or he really has the business being an NFL head coach. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. We haven't seen yet. But until he proves to me, until his staff proves that they can score points, be competitive, be consistent, put up a fight, and play like an NFL team from week to week, I'm going to bet against that prospect. Because the only reason that Gruden has his coaching job is because of his last name. Let's be quite frank here. And we all remember what happened to Mike Shula when he was coaching in Cincinnati. Now, I'm not knocking Mr. Gruden in Washington. I hope he does well. Nothing against him. But I always bet against the prospect of something happening rather than hoping, that it has, when all the evidence so far shows that this is not a team nor a situation or a system nor a roster of players that I want to bet with my money and back with confidence. So I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks as my final play, laying the 7, and that's NFL week number 5. I'm Nolan Dalla. We're 18-10 and rolling, and let's come back and get some money, and we'll see you next week on NFL Tonight.